Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? It is weekly wine picks time. We are back, and I've got two amazing wines from Italy. I love Italian wines. They're a place where you can find a lot of value, and often the place that we go to for such reasons and because the wines are delicious. But these two wines today, I'm very excited. Of course, are being offered on Wine Access at present, which we love. But two sort of famous names that are coming in at a fraction of the price, which I'm sure you guys love as much as I do. So the first one, very famous. Sorry about the lighting, guys. Ornellaia. I'm sure you've heard of it if you are a fan of Italian wines, if you're a fan of super Tuscans. Ornellaia, Sassicaia. Those names are synonymous with super Tuscans from, of course, Tuscany, being those sort of Cabernet Sangiovese blends. But they're insanely expensive. I mean, you look at Ornellaia, I just had it last week for the podcast. I think I might have actually drank it on here. A beautiful wine, you know, tons of rich fruit, but you're talking $250 a bottle for a current release wine. So not exactly in the accessible, approachable price point for a bottle of red wine. This is Volte, and again, I'm going to try to maybe move you back here a little bit. Volte del Ornellaia, this is their second label, so an entry-level wine for them, a wine that is coming in at $22 a bottle, if you can believe it. And then the other one we're going to talk about tonight is the Diogo Conterno. So you've probably heard Conterno before. There's a few different Conternos in Piedmont. This is the Diogo Conterno of the Conterno Fantino family. So Diego stepped out on his own in 2000 and decided to start making his own wines that are incredibly beautiful. But we are talking about a wine that is $28 and drinks like an incredible Piedmontese wine. So let's start with the Volte de Ornellaia and see how that goes. And I hope you all are having a wonderful evening. I know it's a little late for some of you right now. I am back on the West Coast at the moment, opening some wine late night. I had a few other things to do today. So yeah, and the podcast is out. If you haven't caught our podcast yet, it's called Wine Access Unfiltered. The 4th episode comes out tomorrow, which I'm very, very excited about because I think it's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite episodes that we recorded so far, because I sort of have a personal story with our guest who famously played for the Boston Red Sox, also played for the Cubs. He is now an announcer for the Dodgers, which just won the World Series. So you can probably figure it out. But he's also married to a very famous soccer player. Let's get this guy open too while we're at it. And just a refresher, we're drinking Volte del Ornellaia and a little Nebbiolo from Diogo Conterno. As always, these wines are coming from Wine Access, like I said, and we love Wine Access because they do everything right when it comes to sourcing their wines and getting them to you. They have the provenance guarantee. And if you don't like any of these wines that you end up buying, you just call them up, let them know, and they'll credit you back. No problem. All right. So let's get this in the glass. We're going to start with Volte. And this is a blend, just as Ornellaia is, of Cabernet, Sangiovese, and Merlot. So if you're a lover of blends, this is, I mean, for me, this is a wine that's more than just a second label, or even, I don't know if it's second or third label actually, of a really, really great producer. I mean, to get a wine of this caliber for $22 in general is amazing, but the fact that it's attached to the Ornellaia name speaks volumes. So, I mean, this is a wine that's going through the same processes that Ornellaia is. They're using a lot of the same casks to make the wine, same winemaker. It's unclear where the fruit is coming from. Like, I haven't really been able to suss that out. So I don't know if this is entirely estate, but I think we can assume that at least a portion of it is, if not all. So yeah. So what I love about these sort of like super Tuscan reds is the complexity of these wines, and it just kind of smells like fall. So it's apt timing for sure. As I just said, you know, we're moving into this place where we love juicier, spicier, you know, more intense wines as the season gets a little cooler. And, you know, I get tons of this like crushed red cherry, lots of spice, but it's a blend. So there's a lot of different things going on in here. And I love the addition of Sangiovese in this wine. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous expression of a grape that wants to be super bouncy and fresh. That's sort of being toned down a little bit with Cabernet and Merlot in here to kind of keep it nice and serious. A really rich, sort of voluptuous wine, but not over the top. I mean, this is all fruit. This is nice and plushy. It's not jammy. It's just bouncy, plushy, fleshy fruit. So we talked about Pinot Noirs last week. This is definitely going to be more mouth coating than that. Pinot Noir being, lighter skinned, thinner skinned grape producing lighter bodied wines. These are going to be, you've got Cabernet, you've got Sangiovese, and you've got Merlot. So a fuller bodied wine, a wine with a lot more texture, roundness. As we're feeling this wine in our mouth, it's going to give you a lot more depth, a lot more intensity. And I love that. I love that you can get a wine that is this well made, that is this full bodied, because oftentimes in this like $20 category, you're looking at wines that, maybe are a little bit more full bodied, but they're overly extracted. There's a lot of, crap oak, just to be blunt about it, that's put on these wines. They're maybe manipulated a little bit heavy. This feels very clean, very pure. And the intensity of this wine is coming directly from the fruit, which I just think is a wonderful thing at any price, but especially great at $22. I believe this is a limited time offer. So that $22 price could change, because I'm seeing it out in the wild, not on Wine Access, for about $30 to $35. So kind of a screaming deal. Acidity wise, you're looking at a wine that has acidity and structure, but this is leading with fruit. So acidity is, we talked about Burgundy last week. Acidity is not going to be the thing that it's leaning with. This is a wine that has roundness and softness and plushiness, but acid is not, it's not the first thing that's coming to mind. And keep in mind, I mean, this is a wine from Tuscany. It's hot there. Similar to Napa Valley, where I am now, a region that doesn't necessarily lend itself to screaming amounts of acid. It lends itself to ripeness and body and texture and richness, which we love. So a wine like this, I'm thinking food-wise, I'd love any sort of protein that's going to be braised, any sort of protein that's going to be roasted, something that's going to have a lot of spices, a lot of, I think of like sage, of rosemary. You want to throw a roast chicken in the oven, get like the skin nice and crispy. This would be a perfect wine to pair with that. But for $22, grab a case of this wine, have it on hand. This is a great holiday wine for you to stock up on for, if you are having company over, or just to have as a Tuesday sipper. I mean, this wine is not an easy wine to find. In general, you don't see a lot of places with it. So I love that Wine Access has it, and I love that it's down to $22. I'm going to switch over to this Nebbiolo that's calling my name over there, because this is actually a wine that I bought a bunch of myself. The Nebbiolo Dalva Baluma 2017 from Diogo Conterno. This is a wine that not only I bought tanker loads of for myself, but the whole Wine Access team. So whenever this wine is offered on the daily offer, this is generally a wine that we all buy at minimum a case of, because it's just so darn delicious. And you look at this wine, it's $28 right now in the store. I think of Italy as being an amazing place for value, and it certainly is. But this is also, you can get really, really high quality Barolos for, $100, $150. But one of the great secrets of Italian wines is your ability to get them in that $20 to $30 category that are just so darn delicious. Now, we're sort of going to be in stark contrast to the Volte, the Ornellaia, because we're dealing with the Cabernet, the Merlot, the Sangiovese in that wine. This wine is Nebbiolo. So when you think Nebbiolo, you should be thinking two things: tar and roses. The other couple of things you should be thinking, and the way that I always sort of blind taste Nebbiolo, is it always, it smells like Pinot, it tastes like Pinot, but it's got tannin. It's got tannin for days. So it's like Pinot with like a lot of dryness. And when I say tannin, it's tannin coming from the grape, not coming from the oak that it's made in. So when you see Nebbiolo, the reason that we love Nebbiolos with age is because they can be so incredibly hard and rigid in their youth because of that tannin. It takes years to settle. It's why we love Barolos back to the 60s and the 50s. They're so darn delicious. But you get a producer like this who really sort of takes Nebbiolo, not from Barolo, but we're calling it baby Barolo because this is the Baluma. You're looking at a vineyard site and a wine that's going to be a little bit more approachable in its use. So it's giving you everything that we love about Nebbiolo in general, but sort of taking away some of that incredibly harsh astringency and replacing it with a little bit more freshness and vibrancy. So on the palate, on the nose, there it is. Tons of cherries. Oh man, it's a little minty as well. These wines have such a beautiful sense of place. It's why I love them so much. And I love wines that you can get at this price that have so much character and so much quality, but they really, really speak to the place, and you're already getting that on the nose. There's those roses, and I'm getting a lot of menthol, a lot of sort of that black licorice. So a really sort of deep, savory nose, that tar that is coming out a little bit. So again, you're thinking about, which Italian wine do I choose? I mean, couldn't be more different wines aromatically, and I'm suspecting once we get in the palate, again, going to be very, very different wines. Pinot lovers, Grenache lovers, light-bodied wine lovers, this is your jam. This is so delicious. Super, super light-bodied. Lots of savory undertones. If you're someone that doesn't love wines that lead with fruit, if you love a little bit more crunch, you love Oregon Pinot Noirs, you love, of course, if you just love Nebbiolo, this is going to be a dream wine for you, I'm sure. But I love this wine because I think, for me, it gives me all the intensity aromatically and in flavor profile without being quite as overwhelming as the Ornellaia is, right? So sometimes you don't want a super heavy wine. Sometimes you don't want a wine that's incredibly decadent, that texturally sort of takes over your mouth. This is lighter, softer, a little bit more playful. I'm trying to think. There was a wine that I had. It was one of the first wines I did for weekly wine picks that this kind of reminds me of. And it was a northern Italian wine. So we're in the region of Piedmont. When you see Nebbiolo, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be from the region of Piedmont. That's where the region of Barolo and Barbaresco come from. These are wines that are, like I said, generally the Barolos for sure, the king, and more expensive. Barbaresco a little less than that, and then you've got these Nebbiolo Dalvas that are even less than that, but often come from similar places that are sort of right next to us. So often a great steal. I can't get over the nose on this wine. It is outrageous, but there's those tannins. It doesn't always hit you on the first sip, but it comes back on the second. So they sort of build. If you like, and they're not Cabernet tannins. I do want to point that out. It's not structurally like Cabernet. You think of Cabernet tannins as being, kind of like around your mouth. I always find the Nebbiolo tannins to be a little bit more flat and on the surface and sort of just slightly astringent and drying. I like it from a structural standpoint, but I also know that these are wines that really, really want food. These are wines that want to be paired with, lighter proteins. So you've got heavier proteins for the Ornellaia, lighter proteins for this. So a lighter roast chicken, maybe you throw a salad with it. I'd love this with like a mushroom risotto. Gosh, that would be so delicious. I think I'm hungry. This is $28. It's 2017. I will tell you, links are below, by the way. These wines are available on Wine Access, but buyer beware. There are 2 Diogo Conternos on there right now. One is the Baluma. The other, I'm totally blanking on the name, I'm sorry, but it is a different cuvee, and they are similar in price. So one is $28, this is $28, the other one is $25. I almost made the mistake earlier by putting the wrong link on there, but I have it up below in the description. I love to stock up in these wines, especially when you're buying from Wine Access. It's 6 bottles or $120, whichever comes first, for free shipping. And when I'm buying for myself at home, I'm generally trying to hit that mark, of course, because who likes to pay for shipping? No one. So when I'm buying for myself at home, I'm often buying, 2 or 3 bottles of this, 2 or 3 bottles of the Ornellaia, maybe some champagne, kind of put my cart together to get ready for, the next 2 to 3 weeks of my life, wine-wise. So what else, guys? These are super delicious. Let's go back to the Ornellaia for just a moment, since we kind of breezed by. It's getting a little bit more floral and a little bit more sunny. It's super bouncy. It's very, very pretty nose. Think these sort of like rosy pink flower, purple flower characteristics on the nose, but then these great crushed cherries. All you're getting is that cherry from the Sangiovese. And just a soft palate. I like these wines. I think, like I said, for hosting, I really like these wines because I think they're super versatile. And for people, I think a lot of palates can get on board with this wine. So whether, it's like my mom, who really doesn't love astringency, like she would hate this Diogo Conterno, it would not be your jam. She doesn't like astringency so much in her wine. She likes her wines softer, rounder, plushier, not so astringent. She'd be all over this. But I think the complexity and the nuance of this Ornellaia, a palate who would be after something a little bit more old world in style, would really enjoy this wine. So, I think this is the wine that I would definitely be stocking up on for parties. Me personally, I would be stocking up on lots of this guy. But I think you'd be in good hands if you wanted to have, 6 of one and 6 of the other, or 3 of 3, whatever that is, to have on hand. And that's really, maybe I didn't point that out in the beginning, really the point of this weekly wine picks is to start getting us ready for the holidays and all of the cooking. And, maybe there's some entertaining, I don't know, with COVID that's happening. But for this season, I love having these 2 wines on hand because it's just a season where it's kind of chaotic. You're doing a lot of things. You just want something that's really easy. And I'm going to be talking about some of my hacks for the holiday season. Don't go crazy. Don't open the insane wines that need decanting and special glasses and, are going to be lost on the majority of your guests. Focus on just having clean, delicious, easy, drinkable wines. And that is exactly what these 2 are. So I love having these on hand. Other things to always have on hand during the holidays is champagne. Have some champagne, have some sparkling on hand. Even if you're not going to drink it, always good to have on hand if you find yourself last minute trying to head to a holiday party and you're like, crap, I need something to bring with me. Sparkling is always an acceptable treat to bring to a party. I know from experience. Let's go back to this for just 1 second because I went back to the Ornellaia. I want to be fair to the Nebbiolo. So minty, it's so delicious. Wow. And those tannins build, you don't necessarily get it in the first sip, but the tannins build. It just sort of leans there, adds a little bit of structure, adds a little bit of, intensity, a serious nature to this wine. But, also a wine that I'm drinking these both at cellar temperature right now. I love this with a slight chill. So, probably the best example I could give you for this wine is if you're someone that loves Cru Beaujolais, this is probably your jam. And then if you're someone that loves Chateauneuf de Pape, this is probably going to be your jam. We don't love to compare all the time to other regions because they are so distinct. But I think, generally speaking, if that is, something that you really enjoy, if those are 2 regions or 2 wines that you really enjoy, these are probably wines that you're going to be enjoying. So, all right. Well, I have not eaten dinner yet, if you can tell from my talking about food and getting a little bit drooly over here on the side. But I will wrap up and let you guys know once again, these wines are both available on Wine Access right now. Below in the description is the links to all. And if you use that little link and you've never purchased from Wine Access before, I have a share code there. Your first purchase of $150 or more, you get $50 off of that, and you're going to get free shipping. So there you go. tomorrow, Thursday, the episode 4 of Wine Access Unfiltered is launching. If you haven't listened to episodes 1 through 3, which came out last week because we launched, hooray, be sure to check that out. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. It's called Wine Access Unfiltered. I am thrilled to report that we were in the top, we were up to number 6 on Apple's podcast for food. So hooray, we're doing the things. It's exciting. Yeah, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna go. And I'll see you all probably very, very soon. At the very minimum, I will see you next Wednesday for Weekly Wine Picks Part 3. See you guys.